Welcome to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Ian, better known as Master of Pieces, a passionate part-time reseller and collector who focuses on the things he genuinely loves to buy, sell and keep. Despite juggling reselling alongside his full-time job, whoopsie daisy, Ian has built one of the biggest YouTube channels in the UK within the part-time reseller space. But here's the twist, he's not in it for the money. In fact, he could actually earn more just by sticking to his day job. So it makes you wonder, why keep on going? And could it be time to call it a day? Hey, I'm Car Boot Chris. I'm a full-time UK online reseller. I operate mainly on eBay and also Whatnot, but also some other platforms as well. I'm going to bring you regular podcasts all about reselling, hopefully to keep you company, to entertain, or maybe to educate. Who knows? Welcome to the Everything Reselling Podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Series 5, Episode 7 of the podcast. I'm Car Boot Chris. And a bit of a note to self. Whenever you're hosting a live show on YouTube, make sure you turn off the extra screen that you've got on your YouTube. Otherwise, you get feedback like we did there on the intro, but never mind, it doesn't matter. That has got to be one of the best intros I think I've put together for a podcast. But I did get some help from ChatGPT, so thank you to AI for that. Anyway, I need to give a big mention to our sponsor for Series 5. It's Fleek, the online wholesale clothing marketplace. And this is a little bit about them. But it's not. A big thank you to Fleek, also known as Join Fleek, who are sponsoring the podcast for this series, so thank you so much for that. Fleek are an online marketplace where wholesalers can sell their job lots, bundles and bales of wholesale vintage clothing. Just like eBay is a marketplace for people like me to sell new and pre-owned goods, Fleek is a marketplace for people who sell wholesale vintage clothing from around the world. A couple of little tips from me for buying from Fleek. Well, firstly, have a look at the listings, and I always try to buy from someone who has a video on the listing, but the video is the actual items for sale, not a representative. Some will say this is a representative, some will say these are the actual items. I always go for the actual items. Try and buy from people in Pakistan or India, and that is because there'll be no import charges and the shipping is included. You can also do a video handpick. If you contact a supplier, tell them what you're looking for, you can do a video handpick. If you do decide to buy from Fleek, I can give you a code that will give you £26 off your order. The code's in the description below of both the podcast and on YouTube, and you can see it on screen right now. And thank you again for Fleek for sponsoring the podcast. It's all going wrong on this one today. I keep pressing the wrong buttons. I'm going to bring Ian on now. Here we go. Welcome to Ian. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. You pushed the right button then, didn't you?
Yeah, I got you on all right. Yeah, no. It's one of them.
What an intro that was. What an intro.
Well,
That was a good intro. That I was just wondering, does ChatGPT have the answer to the question as well?
Well, probably does. Yeah, actually, I bet it does. Yeah, I sometimes use ChatGPT. Actually, I put in my own description and then I say, can you make it make more sense? So it kind of puts it in an order that sounds miles better than my sort of grammatical level of intellect. So yeah, but it could be an idea actually. When we're a bit further down the chat, we'll ask ChatGPT what it thinks of the answer of this question for the show today. Before we get into it though, Ian, do you want to give an intro to yourself to everybody watching?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm Ian. I'm the Master of Pieces based down in Cardiff. I'm a part-time reseller, and I don't really like the phrase part-time because it kind of implies that you don't do as much or are as good as a full-time reseller. But I think we do. And I think there's enough of us out there making a lot of good money to justify that as well. I've been doing it now seriously doing it now for about 4 years. But I've been doing it for a bit longer than that too. Yeah, and I think firstly, thanks for inviting me on. What is this now? Season
Series
5, episode
5.
7.
Yeah, I think we're on. Episode number 4. Does that make it 47 or 57? Something like
47. So there you are. Had to wait till number 47 to get the invite, but
that.
we're here now.
You're here
But
now. That's the main thing.
here now, yeah. But no, it's good, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to today because this time of year I always have just a bit of a self-reflection about eBay and YouTube. You know what it's like, right? Summertime is sourcing, boot sales.
Yeah.
Then on the approach to Christmas, sales are going crazy. And that kind of runs into the new year as well. But come February, March time, it all slows down a little bit. And it's a good time to like reflect, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it does definitely. Well, it does slow down at this time of year. I think most of us, even full timers, experience some level of slowdown, sort of February, March time. But yeah, you just got to ride out these bumps, haven't you?
Mm, absolutely. And that can be easier said than done, particularly when this isn't your full-time income and when you don't need the money and you don't rely on the money. When things slow down a bit, it's very easy to slow down everything really and just switch off. And I'm going through that at the minute.
Mm.
Mm.
So you don't need the money. So you've got a day job, you've got a normal job. Can we ask what your normal job is?
Yeah, of course you can. Yes, I'm a chartered civil engineer.
Right.
I work 4 full-time days, so I work a 30-hour week spread across 4 days. And that's a choice to work 4 days. I used to work 5 days a week. And what what really prompted me to drop the days was whenever my second child was born. I've got 2 young boys. They do appear on my YouTube videos now and then, and they're becoming good little pickers like themselves as well. But whenever my second was born, I had 2 boys preschool age. And if anyone's got kids out there, you'll know how expensive childcare can be. So we worked out that actually it was more cost effective for me to take that time off work, take that day off of work, not put them into childcare. And it worked out something like all I had to earn it was like 50 quid a month. 50 quid a
Right.
month or something was what I had to earn to be kind of financially equivalent.
Hmm.
So that's what spun into the kind of going down to 4 days. But you're right, I don't need they're both now in school. So I don't need to have that childcare saving, but I made the choice to carry on
You're
reselling
still doing it.
rather than going back.
Yeah.
Um, I've been doing that for 18 months now without my boys. And yeah, it's this time of the year, I always think about, do I still want to be doing this?
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Well, let's get to that question in a bit.
Yeah.
Let's rewind a bit. Let's go back. Like, what got you into this reselling in the first place, and when did you get into it?
I got into it through the collecting space.
Yeah.
And we're talking now maybe 7, 8 years ago, something like that. Um, just on Facebook Marketplace. I was looking on
Right.
Facebook Marketplace. I fancy doing some Lego. You know when sometimes you just got it in your head that you want to just do something. I was like, I really fancy doing some Lego. And then so I went down a Lego shop down in Cardiff, and it's like, Christ, this is mega dear. All these sets are mega dear.
Yeah.
So I went on Facebook Marketplace and just typed in Lego, and there was a big bundle of it there. So I bought this big bundle. I was putting it all together. I quite enjoyed doing it. And then I went on Bricklink, sourced a few of the missing pieces, and then I ended up having 4 or 5 sets there for dirt cheap. I
Nice.
was like, well, I'm gonna what am I gonna do with this Lego? Like, what am I gonna do with it? So I went on YouTube and I typed in like how do you sell Lego? I had no clue. I've not been into reselling at all or selling anything secondhand at all. And I come across Closet Geek, and I know
Ah.
you've had Joe
Oh.
on
Yeah.
the show, and he was doing his reselling bit, selling some Lego, and I was like, people actually do this. People can buy stuff and then kind of sell it on. But it still didn't click that I could do this to make money. I'd end up selling the Lego and then just buying more Lego and using it to keep funding the
Right.
hobby.
Yeah.
And then that then became, as you're scrolling down Marketplace, the algorithm kind of clicks in and you're like, well, there's other things on here, going through the toy section. You know what? There's a bundle of Thomas the Tank Trains. There's loads of Thomas the Tank Trains for a tenner. There's more than a tenner's worth there. And then there's Transformers. Then there's Monster High Dolls. And then
Yeah.
there's old vintage toys. And you're just scrolling down, you're like, well, like, it's all here. And that was how it started.
Right.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I collect stuff as well, not as much as what I used to. So what kind of things do you focus on when you are finding stuff for yourself, as opposed to things to resell? Is there a difference, or are you selling the both? Both the same?
Good question. I should be selling it all, but I'm not. And that's another I mean, look at you behind you there. Like if I take you into the garage, it looks very similar, just a backdrop full of things that I should be selling, but I'm not. Like what I collect really is stuff that reminds me of my childhood. And
Yeah, exactly that.
I
Yeah,
I was
totally.
born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. It was, in my opinion, my biased opinion, the pinnacle of kind of toys, pinnacle of
Yeah,
TV shows, pinnacle of movies, and the stuff I collect just brings you back to that time. I've
yeah.
I've gravitated towards Transformers because I had Transformers when I was
Mm,
younger. I've got a lot more now, certainly, than I had when I was younger. And that's part of the thrill of the resale for me as well. It's about buying stuff, the bundles, selling the bits you don't want so that you can so you can keep the stuff from the bundles for free. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So that collection I've got out there, those mean nothing. And that's part of the pleasure of it, the pleasure that it doesn't cost me anything.
yeah. I think most
Mm.
people who are collectors and resellers do very, very similar to that. Like, you are funding your own sort of habit, if you like, by sort of reselling stuff. And I think that's the perfect way to go. And it's great that you don't need the money per se, because you've got a decent job anyway. Because all that stuff that you're putting away in the garage on the shelves and saving, at some point in the future, that's going to, when you decide, actually, I do want to sell these, it'll probably be worth even more than what it is right now if you to sell it now, because it's only going to get rarer. Those Transformers, those Generation 1 or whatever, in 20 years' time, when you decide, actually, I'm going to scale this down and fund my retirement or whatever with this stuff, it's going to be worth more than what it is now. I mean, it's a no-brainer as a part-time. Well, I use that phrase loosely because you're right in what you say. As a part-time seller, it's it's not your main income, so you might as well
No, true.
do what you enjoy, and you might as well collect and keep things if you can save it for a rainy day. Imagine all the things that you're trying to buy now is things that you had, or you remember from your childhood. But
Hmm.
imagine all throughout our life, if we'd have held on to those things that were worth great money now that we didn't know at the time. All those Walkmans that we had. I've got a few bits here and stuff that I had. Your Game Boys and stuff. The things that we just threw away, gave away.
Hmm.
Whatever. If we'd have just kept all that, it'd be worth money now. And you're doing that now. You're recollecting it. So, do you think at some point in the future you will come to a point where, actually, I'm going to cash in on all this stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely will. And I've started doing it now. I think that there comes a point where collecting can become hoarding. And before Christmas, we've just had our loft redone, and I've lost that storage space. And bringing all the stuff down from the loft and putting it out into my back room there, you realize I've got a lot of stuff here. And a lot of this stuff, I don't, I didn't even know I had some of it. Stuff that I've collected, stuff from my collection, it's been in the box up in the loft for 4 or 5 years. So this is when you said then, what do I collect? What should I sell? That's a really difficult question, that is, because really everything there is sellable, and everything there is replaceable as well. If you sell something and you miss it, you go out and just buy it again. So I don't know why I've kept certain things and why I haven't. I don't know.
Just a gut instinct in something that you particularly like, or like Back to the Future for me. Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Walking Dead, Killer Clowns. Killer Clowns is random in there, but those things I find it very hard. If I pick up something in those categories, I find it difficult to sell it and not keep it. So yeah, I've trimmed down my collection. I've trimmed down all the stuff that was like just random one-off pieces from a film or a TV program. I've trimmed a lot of that down now, just to focus in on those particular areas. Mainly because I'm a full-time reseller. Like here, I've built this photograph area for clothing. That's more important right now for me as a full-timer than the wall of collectibles that used to be there previously. So sometimes you got to prioritize, and you don't need to, but sometimes we as full-timers, we've got to prioritize, and we've got to say it's more important I have a more efficient way of photographing than it is to have a nice looking backdrop. So I have let a lot of stuff go there. When it comes to reselling, what platforms do you mainly use?
Just eBay.
Just eBay.
Just eBay. I've tried selling a few bits on Facebook Marketplace, and it's an absolute shocker of a platform. It is shocking.
It's awful, isn't it?
I think it's, I mean, it is. I've got a big bundle of Lego up there now. There's probably 300-400 quid's worth just of Lego, and I've got it on Facebook Marketplace for 100 quid. And people are coming in. I'll give you 50 quid, give you 50 quid, give you 40 quid. Like, no.
Yeah.
And I've tried shopping on Marketplace, and if you get it right, you can be very lucky and you can get it right, but it comes few and far between. It's not Marketplace is not like it used to be.
No.
But
I think the algorithm that they're using on Marketplace doesn't help, because it doesn't seem to serve up like the right things in the right places. Like when you do a search, it doesn't seem to serve it up accurately enough. And like when you search something, like even if like you're searching something for the garden or something, that's it then for the next week. All you get is the same. You get the garden sheds that you're looking for, or garden bench. You just get that for a week and nothing else. I think it could be a lot better. Facebook Marketplace could be great if they got it right.
I think it could be, and it did used to be great. Like I said, that's how I started reselling. It was purely on Facebook Marketplace. Didn't get a single thing from a charity shop, single thing from a boot sale. I was able to keep that going just through stuff on Marketplace. But now you're lucky to find some once every 2-3 months. But no, I think my main platform is eBay. I've been on eBay now for 5-6 years. I've accumulated a lot of positive feedback. I'm a top rated seller on there. So all of that is good traits. That gives your listing already a boost.
Yeah.
I don't like what's been happening with Vinted. I don't like, and what I mean by that is all the stuff about personal information. Like me as an individual, I don't want to give a platform my personal information without knowing it's going to be entirely secure. That really put me off.
Yeah.
So I've not felt the need to kind of go there.
I think it's a cheaper marketplace anyway, Vinted. You're not going to achieve, most of the time, you're not going to achieve what you would in a worldwide marketplace like eBay. You just got the reach, and especially for your kind of area of, niche or whatever you want to call it. Collectors all over the world will buy the stuff that you are selling. People will pay the money for it. They're not they're generally, as a general rule, I don't think people who buy the collectibles are constrained by the usual monetary constraints that everyone else goes through throughout the year. I think as a general rule, I think there's exceptions to that, but I think generally most people have disposable income who are going to be spending a lot of money on a transformer or a toy or something like that. So eBay is your obvious place to be, really. I think. I don't think you need to be on Vinted. I think you do absolutely fine just on eBay.
Yeah, I think it depends on item by item, really.
Mm.
So I do predominantly sell toys and board games as well, and I do dip into other markets as well. So I've been selling a lot of video games recently, and I think if you put the same video game on eBay and put that onto Vinted, you're going to get pretty similar prices for it.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
without their Vinted fees, you're pocketing a couple of quid. But for me, having the security and protection that eBay
Yeah.
provides is worth losing a couple of quid on.
And the customer service that you get generally, if something goes wrong, you're gonna be okay more often than not. 99 times out of 100. Vinted,
I'd agree
well,
with that.
who knows? Who knows?
Hmm. Hmm.
People complain about eBay and this, that, and the other, but more often than not, they do have your back. So
Hmm.
one of the first things you said to me when we discussed this podcast was, why bother reselling anymore? This is what you said to me in a message.
Hmm.
And you actually said to me as well that you were mulling over whether you should even carry on again. And I know we're
Hmm.
jumping into this now, but let's talk about it now, and then we'll work our way backwards. Are you actually thinking about quitting reselling or quitting YouTube?
Yes. Yes is my honest answer. I'm struggling to find the reason to do it. And where this comes from was what I used to get out of doing this was going round with my boys. I'd go around the charity shops with my boys, we spend a lot of time together, and that part of it is gone. Since they've
Mm,
gone to school and I'm there going around on my own, not having them there has taken a massive part of why I started doing this in the first place. In fact, last week I was walking around Newport. Newport's pretty depressing as it is. I was
right.
walking around there, going through a few shops, and I come away with a board game, which is worth about 20 quid, and a couple of games that I overpaid for. And I was there pretty much all day.
Mm,
I got back home and I was like, what have I just done? I've walked around this place. I've come back with absolutely nothing. And in doing this, what I've done is, like I said, I've dropped my working week from 5 days to 4 days. I've lost a day's salary that I could have earned from that. And I think where I might be different to others is I don't hate my job. I don't
mm,
hate my full-time job.
yeah.
There's a lot of people there that use reselling to escape that 9 to 5 grind, escape having a boss. I don't need to do that because
Yeah.
I've got a rewarding job that I enjoy. So I'm at a point now as well where I've been working at my full-time job for a while. I've got myself in a good position, and I'm in a position where I can progress in that.
Right.
Whereas my reselling is kind of there. Whereas this is going up, this isn't
Mm,
going up so much. So on the outside looking in, being really subjective, what do I make? Because this time of year, I look through my numbers. My aim is to make £500 profit per month off of eBay. That's all, £500
yeah.
profit per month. And then I got my YouTube revenue coming in as well. It works
Yeah.
in 8 to 10 grand profit per year. That's all I make from eBay and YouTube. I would make more money in my day off working my full-time job than I would on eBay and YouTube. And it was one of your previous callers, actually, Simon, the gentleman marketeer, phoned in, or he was on the podcast and he was going through saying how many hours he worked. And I worked out how many hours I worked doing this. And it's not just the Wednesday I take off. I'm doing 2 hours per day, pretty much, on average. That's in my evenings, 2 hours a day, every day, doing listing, packing, photos, whatever. That's my time. It works out about 3 full-time days if I was working in a full-time job. 3 full-time days to make 10 grand. Whereas I could forget
Mm.
doing all of that. I could have all that time back. I could go to the gym. I coach football. I could do more coaching sessions. I could take time for myself and just instead work 7.5 hours a day every Wednesday. It's
It's
quite attractive.
interesting that it's interesting when you put it like that, because I've not heard anybody like come up with this sort of reasoning, right? And it makes, when you put it in black and white like that, it makes a lot of sense. Because, like your example, you gave up almost an entire day charity shopping and came away with very little.
Mhm.
And I guess when you get home, you think to yourself, could my day have been better spent than that? Family, kids, whatever, or could have been doing something at home, or even doing an extra day at work. But where do you go from there? I mean, do you love it enough? Are you getting enough enjoyment out of this in order to carry on doing it at the level you are? You've built an amazing YouTube channel. You've got 12,000 subs, almost as many as I have, and I'm a full timer, and more than a lot of people have who are in full time reselling. But it's not about full time, part time anyway. It's about the level of content that you can put out,
Mhm.
whether it's entertaining or educational, and it's both. And you've built a great channel. So where do you go from this point if you're seriously thinking about that? Like, do you really want to give up all that? You put a lot of hours into building that up. It can only get bigger as well, don't forget.
That's the question, isn't it? That is the question. What I'm a firm believer of is just because you've put time and hours and effort into something, that's not a good enough reason to carry on doing it. I've
Okay.
had 4 or 5 years worth of good enjoyment out of eBay, good enjoyment out of YouTube. That's not a good enough reason to carry on doing it. There has to be something else.
Hmm.
And I'm still trying to find what that is. I think that there are moments though where I come in on a Wednesday after a sourcing trip, and my wife can tell when it's been a good sourcing trip because I'm bouncing off the walls and I'm buzzing because I found all this cool stuff. And that's not stuff just to resell, that's stuff for my collection. Or, I might have found a jelly cat from my son, he collects jelly cats, and it's amazing. But then you can also tell when I've had a bad day because I come in, I don't want to talk to anyone. It's like, oh, I've wasted my time. What am I doing? My full-time job doesn't give me those highs, but it
Yeah.
also doesn't give me those lows.
Yeah.
And as long as I can still get enough of those highs, that is enough reason for me to carry on doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume you're like most of us, like the best part of the reselling collecting is trying to find those gems out in the wild somewhere, whether it be a car boot, a charity shop, or whatever. I assume that is the bit that you love the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is what makes this unique. There's not many places or many careers that you can go into where you can get that initial thrill, that initial kind of that like dopamine buzz whenever you find something that's really cool. I think that, yeah, that adrenaline you get as well from whenever you see something really good, like at the car boot sale, you see something really good, you pick it up, and then how much is it going to be? I'm going to ask that person, how much is it going to be? I really hope it's going to be cheap. I really hope it's like affordable. That's the only, reselling gives that, and there's no
Yeah.
other thing that gives that.
Yeah.
Stuff like the postage and the packaging, that's all process. That's all just turn the handle. It's the same as working in a checkout in a supermarket. It's just in out, in out.
Mm.
It's process. I don't enjoy doing that. I think the other bit that I do enjoy And this is where I think reselling can be, you enjoy different parts like throughout the year. So in the summertime, when we're out boot sailing and stuff like that, you're enjoying that buzz of the find. But come Christmas time, when you're seeing the sales coming through and you're getting the money as well, it's not wrong to say that you enjoy making money off stuff, and decent money as well. That is a part of the enjoyment of it as well.
Yeah. Do
Mm.
you put the money that you earn throughout the year, whether it be YouTube, eBay, whatever you earn from your side hustle, do you put it towards something specific? Do you make it work for something, or do you just put it back into the family sort of pot or whatever?
Yeah, we've got like a joint account, and I just stick it all in there. Um, what, what I used to, what I still do in my head is I justify it by saying that I'm overpaying the mortgage, and the amount that I need to earn off of eBay and YouTube combined needs to be the equivalent of paying off my mortgage, or so paying off the overpayments. So it means in my head, it's given actually a purpose for why I'm earning money from this.
Mm.
If I can say that I'm now being able to overpay. Pragmatically, though, like I said, if I was to work in a full-time job, my full-time job instead, I'd be making more money. So
And you
I
could
would
still
still
make
be
those
able to,
overpayments.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's irrelevant, really. Um, yeah,
But
it
then
is.
but if you did that, then you would lose that little bit of fun that you get, that little bit of enjoyment, the excitement. You would lose that, and you would just be doing a job that you enjoy doing, but then not. I think you'd still end up bloody going around charity shops and boot sales anyway on the weekends, but then you'd lose that extra little bit maybe.
Yeah,
And you can't just be
I
all
think you're
work.
right.
You've got to have some time to enjoy stuff.
Of course you do, and I think that a lot of us will all agree that reselling is a lifestyle. It isn't. I mean, it can be about trying to make as much money under the sun and just like rolling the back wheels off eBay and trying to keep it coming in. But for me, part of the appeal is that lifestyle. And where I do enjoy going around on a Wednesday morning in the charity shops is it's completely different to everything else that I'm doing in my life. It's
Yeah.
completely different to my full-time job. None of my family are really that interested in it. So they don't really want to be involved in it. So it is just mine. And
Mm.
because of that, it means that I have that little bit of have that bit of me time. And I think being able to do the YouTube videos around that as well connects me to other people. It's there's a lot about reselling that isn't just the money side of things.
Mm. Yeah. So basically, like, I think if you're saying that you basically trade that extra day, that extra money, you trade that in exchange for some you time in order to get some enjoyment out of it, have your little side hustle, earn a little bit of money, maybe not as much as money as you could earn, but at least you're earning something out of it. It's better than nothing. Trading that is worth it. From what I can hear in your voice, it's worth it because of what you're getting out of it. And it's not all about just doing a 9 to 5. It's you're doing your job, you're earning your money, but you're giving yourself, you're trading a day just to give that back to yourself. So what's wrong with
Exactly.
that? There's nothing wrong with
Eh,
that.
There's not. Absolutely not. And I think more people should do it as well. I think I think more people should give dedicated time to themselves. Um, I think what also gives us comfort here is in the 4 days that I do work in my full-time job, I bring in enough money from those 4 days to comfortably live.
Yeah.
I'm not got to worry about my mortgage. The bill's always paid for. I don't need I don't need to work 5 days. I don't need that
Yeah.
extra money. In fact, what am I going to do with that extra money? I might have more coming into my bank account, but if I don't need that extra money, then having that time is more valuable
Definitely.
than that extra money, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, that's it. The
That's what I'm
time is more
yeah.
valuable. You can't buy it, can you? You can't buy that time back.
No, no,
Gone,
you
it's
can't.
gone. Before we carry on, let me go back through the chat a bit, Ian. Let me see who we've got in, because we've got lots of people here
Oh yeah, go
watching
for it.
on YouTube. Let's have a little look and see if we've got some questions or comments we can go over. AC Global says, I'm never going to stop campaigning until Ian brings back the intro and outro to his YouTube videos.
My brother, right, made like he's class. He's class at doing kind of any video editing and doing computer modeling and graphics. And he come up with this like epic intro. And then one of our friends, she's in a punk rock band up in Northern Ireland, and they recorded a theme tune as well. So I had this
Nice.
really heavy kind of punk rocky like theme tune coming in, and then it just went to into like a nice serene charity shop. It just did not fit the videos at all. But you know, when someone puts in like loads of effort for you, you feel like you got to use it. I was there.
Oh, well. Oh, well. AC also says, I've been reselling part-time for quite a while, but Ian was the first YouTuber I randomly stumbled across. Still my favorite, even though I don't sell the same things, but relatable as a fellow part-timer. That's good to hear.
No, definitely. And I think there's lots of things that link resellers together. You know, it's not just the items you sell, it is the process and the mindset
Mm.
and just the life.
Yeah. Limelight Vinty says, question, is the Lego why you are called Master of Pieces?
No one's ever asked why that is the channel name, like ever.
It's on
And
my list, but I'm
is
giving
it
Limelight Vinty the limelight on this one.
given the limelight? Yeah. It's not to do with Lego. No, it's
Is it
not.
just pieces as in, like you might call a vintage something a piece? Is it that?
Exactly. Like there was one moment, I can't remember what video it was, but I was watching it like way back before I'd had a channel. And it was I found it really weird people talking about like finding a computer game and saying, oh, this is a really nice piece. It's like it just felt really weird,
Hmm.
And then like whenever you start a YouTube channel, I mean, well, obviously, I don't know how much effort you put in, Chris, with your name, but like you kind of have to come up with something a bit unique, don't you? And I was
You have
thinking
to
like
try.
you got to try, and it's like my name's Ian. It's like who's been called Ian in like the past 30 years? It's not like most like let's go and watch Ian. So I couldn't have Ian resells or Ian sells. I was like, oh, what should I do?
It's a
And
great
then
name.
it's like, oh man, I don't know. And then like I'll be honest, I didn't expect anything to come of my channel whatsoever, like anything. So I thought, oh, let's just come up with some names. And I had some Masters of the Universe toys there,
Ah,
and it was like masterpieces, yeah, just put them together like that, and
Master
that's
of
that, that's
Pieces.
that's how it come about.
Nice. Dig Vintage says, does your reduced hours at work mean you are less likely to be promoted?
Great question, that. And there's some that I don't think so. I think that if I'd gone down any more, then yes. If I'd say gone down to 3 days a week, then yes, I could see that having an impact. I think 4 days, going from 4 to 5, all that really does is reduce the volume you do. It doesn't really reduce your role on the particular projects or kind of on the job. It just means you can't do as many jobs. But if I went down to 3 days a week, yeah, it would impact. And actually that is a good point there, because a lot of people ask, will I ever go full time as a reseller? And no, I won't, because it would mean having to reduce down to 3 days or reduce down to 2 days and have that transition period. And it wouldn't work. I'd have to bin off my full-time job and just go cold turkey into reselling, I think.
Yeah.
And I couldn't justify it.
Yeah. It kind of leads on to something I was going to ask you. And one of my questions to you was, how do you think you would fare as a full-time reseller? Like if something, God forbid it doesn't, but if something were to happen to your job, how do you think, where do you think full-time reselling would go in your world?
I give it a
Would you
crack.
just do more of the same, or do you think you would have to end up branching out into other things? You know, how do you think it'd go?
I don't think you can do more of the same. I don't think there's enough of it there. I think you'd have to branch into other things. And I think I would lose the love of it very quickly if I did that.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more likely to look for another full-time job and keep doing this on the side. I do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if you go into my eBay store and have a look on my eBay, you'll see that I have tried to pick up and sell some shoes. I've tried to pick up and sell some clothes. I've tried to pick up and sell certain other niches, but I haven't got it. I just haven't got it. And those are the things that are sat on my eBay store, not selling, ticking over,
You,
because I just
you
haven't got
don't
it.
need to, though. Why bother if you don't need to? Like, if you're perfectly good where you are, selling what you need, selling what you enjoy, why bother picking up the jeans and the shoes and stuff? You get no enjoyment out of it.
It takes a bit of time to realize that, though, Chris. I think
Mm.
if you're new to reselling, or even if you've been reselling a while and you want to expand, it's quite easy to force it.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that I fell into that trap of wanting to. I was focusing on trying to make more money, so I thought, oh, you know what? Let's have a gamble on these jeans. I don't know anything about jeans. Don't know anything about clothes. Let's have a gamble on these clothes. Just give it a go.
Yeah.
And then I got it wrong. And then now it's sat there, and now it's cost me money.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting
But
one that.
when I was part-time, like I started as a business in 2015 and I went up to 2019 as a part-timer. So I did 4 years part-time. And I was just picking up stuff that I enjoyed. If you go back and watch my videos from 2015 through 2019, you will not see much in the way of clothing, hardly any clothing at all.
Mm,
I never ever bought shoes, trainers, or anything. Like never. I don't think I ever picked up a pair. So I was just picking up the things that I knew about: soft toys, collectibles, figures, probably similar to yourself. I didn't probably have as much knowledge of it as you as into the vintage stuff, but you know, you have an idea if a figure and toy is worth some money.
yeah.
So I just picked up what I kind of liked myself, and that's why I did it. And that's because I didn't need to bother with clothing. And obviously, when I went full time, you've got to ramp it up something,
Mhm.
you know, to something another level. Otherwise, you can't pay your bills. So you have to kind of look at what else can I sell. And for me, clothing is the obvious one, as it is for most people, because well, clothing was a game changer for my business because clothing really ramped up the numbers. Like clothing is everywhere. Yeah, you
Mhm.
don't even have to leave your house to buy clothing. You can buy it all online and it can be delivered to your door and you never have to leave the house. So I think if you were to go full time, you would inevitably have to sort of branch out and do other things because, like you said, there's not really enough out there in the collectible space to make a full time living of it.
Exactly. I think whenever I do go out and do my sourcing, I like to think that I'm doing it the same way as if a full timer was going out doing it. It's not as if I'm going around and particularly honing in on items and ignoring other items. If I see an item that's going to be worth a bit of money or a lot of money, I will still pick it up. So the way I would see it is I would just be rinse repeating what I'm doing, but on other days.
Yeah,
And I don't think that there's as much volume. I don't think there's enough volume for me to do that in my current ways of sourcing.
yeah.
Mm.
On another subject, like some full-timers are like machines. Let's put it that way. Some resellers absolutely work their asses off, and I say all power to those people, because everybody has different needs, requirements. Everyone has different, financial burdens that they need to keep up with. And that's something else that, like, do you think if you were a full-timer that you'd end up like working a ridiculous number of hours just to, I mean, I don't know what you earn in your day job right now, and you don't need to tell us, but how many hours would you have to put in as a reseller to earn what you're earning now in your job? Put it that way.
I don't think there would be enough hours
Probably
in a
not.
week.
No.
No,
You'd have to work
I
your
don't.
ass off. You'd have to work. I would wager you would have to work more than what you work now in your job as a reseller to equal the pay.
Easy. Oh God, easy. I think actually most professions, if you work 9 to 5 during the week, you get paid your wage. But let's not forget, most companies now do a pension contribution as well. So you can add that on to extra pay. Paid holidays, you get medical care with some companies, you get dentistry with some companies, you get salary sacrifice for child vouchers. There's a lot of perks just outside of your kind of salary.
Yeah.
And I've always said, if I was to ever to go full time, I'd have to be earning considerably more than what I get paid in my full time job, because of the risk associated. You haven't got a guaranteed income.
No.
You know, that's the nature of just being self-employed. It's risk, but high reward if you get it right. And that's a risk I don't need to take. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that it's a serious consideration. We get a lot of our information about reselling and what other resellers are doing through social media, through what our favorite YouTubers are kind of doing. And
Yeah.
a lot of the YouTubers in the UK in particular paint this picture that success is going through the steps, going through the motions, being part-time, but success is becoming full-time and making it a job. And I don't think I don't think that's true. It might be true for some, but I think that success is about kind of what you actually do with your time and what you do with your money. And for me, if you can have a stable job, and there's nothing wrong with having a stable job working for somebody else, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not.
A lot of people, if you particularly follow some of the Gary Vee advice or some of the entrepreneurial advice, it's almost like, what are you doing working for someone else? You should be working on your own. There's nothing wrong with working for someone else, that's for sure.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
If you value that stability.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And I remember watching, I don't know who it was. It's not like a reseller or anything like, because I wouldn't slag anybody off. I remember watching one of these like motivational, inspirational business people. I don't know if it was on a podcast or something, but I remember watching one, and they kind of said, if you're the kind of person who sits and watches Netflix, then you will never be a success. And I just thought, what a crock of shit that is. Because how do they know what my definition of success is? How do they know what I want to achieve out of life? And they're basically saying that I could never earn good money because I sit and watch Netflix, because for some reason that's a bad thing. I said to you before, I love just sitting with the missus and the dog sat between us, just feet up, watching something on Netflix. What the hell is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing at all.
Nothing wrong at all.
Because my My level of success is that I've earned enough money that I can go and sit on that sofa and not work. And I'm happy with that. I might not be a millionaire. I'm definitely not a millionaire. You know, I'm earning a little bit more than what I was earning in my day job when I left full-time work, but not much more. But this is why I do reselling. It's so that I can go and put my feet up in the evening. It's so that I can walk the dog. I can go for breakfast in the mid-morning and then do my work later. I can work in an evening, or I can work in the morning. I can work at a weekend if I want to. I can have a week off and work a bit harder before and work a bit harder afterwards. I can do all these different things. You know, I can take a day off without asking somebody. And that's why I'm in the reselling stuff. And to me, being able to do all that stuff is my level of success. I don't need to be earning 500K or whatever. It's
Hmm.
not, that's not me. I'm not interested in that. I'll take it if I win the lottery, but I'm not going to work 20 hours a day for it. Let's put it that way. It's not what I'm into. So it
Yeah,
annoys me when these so-called inspirational business speakers, maybe it's just because I'm the wrong audience for their speech. I don't know, but I'm self-employed. I work for myself. I'm building a business. I have a business, but they're trying to say to me like, "You'll never be a success if you do this," but that they don't know what success means because it's different for everybody.
absolutely.
Rant
You know,
over.
success is about, it's about achieving the goals that you've set yourself. Not about someone else's goals, not about matching whatever someone else does. What are your goals? And if you can achieve those goals, then that's success, isn't it? That is success.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's an interesting one about linking it back to the money there though, is as a full timer, I'd be interested to know how many full timers have kind of, let's call it a target salary per year. Have you got a target amount of money which you want to make per year? And then I get, if you're not achieving that, you might want to work harder, you might want to list more, you might want to source more to try and achieve that. But if you go over that target, what do you do then? Do you rein it back in a bit because you've already, because you
Mm.
kind of already earned that money? If you've gone over that target, have you been working too hard?
Yeah, there's that.
You know?
I don't really set targets per se, but my sort of way of thinking is I just try and earn a little bit more than I did the previous financial year. If I can top it, you know, a little, you know, even by a few £100, that's kind of my target. I've failed this financial year. I've failed. Last year, I don't mind saying because it's already on a video of this year. I don't normally share financials, but I did a video earlier this year. I think last financial year, I think I earned about 32K, something like that. This year's coming. This year's going to be looking at like what we've got 2 weeks left. I'm going to be on about 28. And that's because I took the pedal off on Whatnot, and Whatnot gave me sort of 12 grand or so last year. So, you know, and Whatnot's definitely not given me that much this time.
Mm, mm,
So I've failed for the first time as a reseller this year. I've earned less than last year. So feel like a bit of a failure this year, but I'm gonna try to get back on track next year. But I'm not worried still because I'm still okay money wise.
mm,
But yeah, it's interesting question that you ask is like about targets and what do we do.
mm.
All my only target is to try and do better than I did the previous year. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the whole six figures. I'm not worried about, you know, I need to turn over X, Y, Z. I'm not worried about that.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
some people are, and I understand like people are motivated in different ways. People, you know, set themselves pretty hefty targets. I've seen some reselling YouTubers set some really like, wow, that's one hell of a target you set yourself there. And you almost set yourself up to fail. And it's probably the reason why I don't set myself targets, is because I'm more often than not, I probably don't reach them because I don't know, maybe I can get lazy sometimes. I think we can all be a bit lazy. But yeah, I don't know. What is success? It's, you know, to each of us is different. And I just know that for me in my life, I don't want to work so hard that, you know, I don't have time for anything else. And who knows what tomorrow brings? You know, who knows what the tide's going to wash up, and who knows what's going to happen to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And some people just want to work so hard. And this is definitely not a criticism of anybody. I mean, Simon says himself, you know, the gentleman marketeer, he might even be watching. He's an absolute workaholic, and he works his arse off because he wants to provide for his family later in life. And I can totally appreciate that. I think that is his goal, that is his aim. And we all have different ones. We all have different things that we want to achieve in life. And just as though it's fine to have a big goal like that, I think equally so, it's fine to be content. It's fine to have a job like you do. It's fine to have that security. And it's all about what we are happy with our lot. And if you're happy with it, I think that's perfectly fine as well.
Is there no better measure of success than being happy?
Exactly. Yeah, that's got to be it, hasn't it? I'm pretty contented right now. You know, we could all do with a few extra quid, don't get me wrong. You know, when you see your gas and electric bill coming in, you think, shit, that's a lot. We could all do with a bit extra, but at the end of the day, I know a hell of a lot of people like out there in the UK are having a hard time. And I just think I'm not having a hard time right now. So I can't really complain too much. All my bills are paid. My mortgage is paid. We overpay on our mortgage as well. You know, we put in, you know, I don't know what it is now. We definitely overpay 200 a month, but when we get extra premium bond stuff come in, we pay that off as well. So, you know, average £300 a month extra on the mortgage. So, you know, we can afford to do that. You know, so if times get hard, we just wouldn't overpay on that. But yeah, there are people a lot more worse off than me. So I try not to complain too much about that kind of stuff. John Shepherd here in the chat says, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and I think what goes with that is appreciate your worth as well. So what I mean by that is you know what you're good at, you know what you can offer. So play on that a little bit as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think the work smarter, work harder thing is quite an easy thing to kind of band around, but you know, you've got to work hard to be in the position to be the smartest. You know what I mean? You know, you can't just do one and kind of not the other.
Yeah, fair enough. Vinyl Guardian says, I don't care about the money as long as I make enough to pay my bills and go off to the Caribbean, Devon and Cardigan Bay every year. That will do for me. But this is it. Everybody's idea of what is enough for them. And some people, I don't think, have a upper limit of what is enough. And some people will be happy to just push it as far as I can. And yeah, not even have an upper limit. It's like when will here's a question then for you. You know, when will you actually be satisfied? When will you stop and say, I'm at a level that I'm okay with now? What for people who work so hard, do they have a limit? or do they just want to be as big as their life and effort will take them?
Hmm.
I don't know, because I don't have that mindset, you see. So it's hard for me to answer it. Like, I could get any number of people who we've had on the podcast on here who have that mindset. We have lots of people, and I don't have the mindset for that. I can't envisage myself ever earning, like, ever pulling in a couple of 100K. I can't envisage myself employing somebody, and maybe that's a detriment to my personality. I don't know. Maybe that I will never achieve it because I've never aspired to it. Maybe you can only ever achieve it if you aspire to it, and maybe I'm just not like that.
Maybe you're not. Maybe I'm not. I don't
You've
know.
got a nice job anyway, so you don't need to worry. Darren on YouTube says, my bills are paid. I can see my daughter grow up, and I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. I'm happy. What's your boss like?
My boss, my boss is similar age to me. You know, we've got quite a young company. I'm quite high up in our group, so I've got more people under me than I've got above me.
Right.
Yeah, that is a comment that you see all the time. A boss breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
And you know,
It
some
depends
people.
what kind of boss you've got.
Well, it does, and I think that it's all about having that structure as well, and having that mutual respect. You know, that's why I said, you know, appreciate what your worth is. If you've got a boss that doesn't appreciate what you're worth and what you bring to that particular role, then you're in the wrong place. But that's not to put people off of just full-time employment. You've just found the wrong place. You know, there might be a job next door which has got a great boss. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had some good bosses in the past. I must admit. In my last job, I had a horrible boss. Yeah, I had the breathing down my neck boss. So yeah. South London Reseller here on YouTube says, I personally like Simon's hustle because I know why he's working so hard. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm definitely not like dissing Simon or anything like that, because I've got a lot of respect for Simon. And he's been here on the podcast and he's explained his whole work ethic, and it's very interesting to hear. And the reason why he does it is, you know, amazing. So good luck to him. But I would never sort of talk about any other reseller in a negative light on my channel. It's not what we do here.
No, definitely. And I think actually after the podcast where Simon jumped on, I did send him a message just to say kind of what does he actually get out of reselling. And you know, he's obviously putting in steps to grow a massive business, to bring a lot of money in. But I think the difference between me and him is whether there's a love for the actual items he's getting or not, or whether at that level you've just got to see everything as just pound coins. Whereas for me, and I'm going and buying some toys, or I'm restoring kind of an old piece of electronics, I'm spending time. There's a bit of personal attachment to it. I think that is what whether it does hold me back, that is what holds me back from being or for it basically slows down what I do, is kind of what I'm trying to say, because I've got that bit more attachment to something. Whereas I think at Simon's level, it is all just in, out, there's my money type thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well, because I'm pretty sure I could resell things other than what I do and make a better profit. But also, would I get the same enjoyment? And I kind of link my reselling job, to some level of enjoyment in finding the things that I find.
Mhm.
If I was just solely clothing, I think I might personally like lose a little bit of interest in it, because I'm like what you were saying. I'm more of a I really like the thrill of finding sort of random pieces, random things. You know, it's great when you find collectible stuff like what you look for a lot. It's good when you find that stuff. If I was solely looking for clothing, and I do 50% of what I sell is clothing, but I don't think I would want to do 100% because I would lose that enjoyment of finding the weird random stuff that you find that's worth money, you know.
Totally. And
But yeah,
I think a lot of people are in that kind of same boat. And I did a YouTube video recently actually where I was going through the 50p box just in my local charity shop, and I pulled out an
good
old
old 50p
RoboCop
box.
50p box. I pulled out this Kenner RoboCop figure
Oh yeah.
worth about £8. That's all. But the number of comments I said like, "Oh, what a good find! What a good find! I can't believe you found that in the box." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's all right." And then later on, the next thing I picked up in the video was a Singer sewing machine. New one, not old, new one, 20 quid. And it sells for 130 to 150. I had not one comment on that. No one said,
Yeah.
"Oh, nice find with this sewing machine." Every single comment was about that little RoboCop figure.
Yeah,
Now
because
that
it brought
that
back memories, didn't it, to everybody?
exactly, I think that that's obviously got something to do with the audience for my channel as well. But
That's why your channel has grown as it has, because you're focused on those uh, the memories that we all have of yesteryear and all the toys we used to play with, and people love being reminded of the past and the childhood, and that's why your channel has grown to what it is.
hmm,
If you'd have just been
yeah,
sharing sewing machines and stuff, you know, you might not have got as big an audience as you has now. You might still have done, but you might not have done because I think you've really narrowed it down on your channel, like what people come for and what people expect to see on it.
yeah, I think that I think this goes to any YouTuber now. I think that the items that you pick up, they are like characters to your story, aren't they? So if you've got a video and you're telling a story of how you've been to the shop and you've picked all this stuff up and then you've sold it, it's important to have interesting items to bring
Mm,
people like along the way. And that's what I do try and do. Um, but it goes back to the point of how people are interested in people get more satisfaction when they're interested in the things that they kind of pick up. There's that
yeah,
little bit of interest to actually do that little bit of extra research. There might be that bit of interest to clean it up a little bit or maybe repair some of it before they sell it. If they had no interest whatsoever, it'd be bish bash bosh gone.
yeah, yeah. And Husty just says here, clothing sellers get that too with finding enjoyment. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've found some great clothing pieces as well. But what I was saying, Husty, was that if I did clothing, 100% clothing, I'm not sure I would have quite the same enjoyment for reselling in general as what I do now because I pick up anything and everything. I know I love to focus on collectible stuff, and that I love to find stuff from my childhood as well, just like Ian does as well. So yeah, but I've also found some banging clothing items as well, which does give you a lot of enjoyment, you know. So yeah, I appreciate that as well. I think though, Ian, if you were to be a full-time reseller, you'd probably have to end up picking up more of the sewing machines and the jeans and the trainers, the stuff that, you know, kind of doesn't really excite you much, but might give you more profit than your Kenner RoboCop.
You would, yeah. And the beauty about being part-time is you don't have that financial pressure. If that was my only source of income, trust me, I'd be out there looking at every single thing, making sure that I'm bringing
Yeah,
in money, and it would push you into those other avenues. And who knows, I might actually start enjoying some of those kind of avenues. But at the minute, I don't need to. I'm finding
yeah,
enough to give me the amount of money I need out of this by just selling the bits that I enjoy selling.
yeah. And you might as well. You might as well do that because you're giving up the money in your job. So if you're going to give up that money, then there's no point doing this for the money.
No.
It doesn't make no sense.
If this ever come down to money, this would be gone, and I'd be working in my full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
totally.
luckily, I'm in a position where this isn't. I mean, obviously, there is a monetary part of it. That's what reselling is, isn't it? Making money.
Yeah.
But it's having that kind of money without the pressure.
Yeah, totally. I was just looking on ChatGPT because I was thinking, I wonder if we can ask ChatGPT what they think
Yeah, go on.
success is. Right. Okay.
See what it
What
says.
shall I ask him? What shall I ask him?
Ask him what makes a successful reseller. I
Okay.
said
Right.
him, but it might not be a him. Ask it.
Yeah. I did name mine Dave, so that every time I asked him a question, I called him Dave. What makes a successful reseller? It's going to be like monetary value, isn't it?
Will it though? Because it might have been watching our podcast.
Watching it live.
Yeah.
Okay, what makes a successful reseller? Here we go. I reckon it's going to be on how much you can make. It's going to be the bare bones. I don't think they're going to have the emotional connection. Okay, so great question, Car Boot Chris. You're already deep in the game.
There we are.
So here's a breakdown of what makes a successful reseller, whether on eBay, Whatnot, Shopify, or anywhere else. A keen eye for sourcing, so spotting undervalued items that others miss, whether it's a vintage NFL jersey, or knows me well, or a quirky retro toy. The best resellers know how to hunt gold in a pile of junk. Knowledge is power. Knowing what sells, trends, and hidden gems gives you the edge. The second part of it is market awareness, staying up to date with what's trending and constantly researching prices and comps and sell-through rates. Oh, that's pretty knowledgeable.
It's pretty solid, isn't it? It's good advice.
Yeah, solid. The third point is presentation is everything. Clean, crisp photos, more trust, more sales. Good titles, clear descriptions. And the next thing is efficient processes, listing, packing, shipping, photographing. And then you've got customer service. This is all very sort of business focused.
Yeah, that's just
Customer
how to
service.
actually do it, isn't it? Well.
Yeah, pricing strategies, mindset and patience, resilience, diversified platforms. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
That's me screwed then.
Here's one for you, Ian. Number
Go on.
9 on this list is niche knowledge. The
Niche
best
knowledge.
resellers own their niche.
Niche knowledge.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I think I do think having knowledge in niches is useful, but then it's got to be
having an overview of general things, is having a couple of niches, but having an overview of other stuff.
I think having a few niches that you can really get into the depth of is helpful. But when we're walking around the car boots, if your niche is so specific, what is the chances of you actually coming across anything in that niche? Quite slim, isn't it? So I do think that the way car boots are presented and the way charity shops are presented, you need to have an appreciation of just everything, really, everything at a level, but then certain depth in certain niches.
Yeah. I'm going to ask, the 10th point on that list, they went into some proper detail. I paraphrased it, was constantly learning and adapting, which is important.
Yeah, I think that is more important. That's probably the most important thing. You know
probably
what I mean?
right.
Because like you could go down the rabbit hole of a niche. Let's use Transformers, for example. You can know the names of all the Transformers. You could know kind of what weapons come like with what. But all of a sudden they might go out of fashion. give it 10 years time, transform. No one might not care about Transformers. So you've got to adapt. You've got to move. And some that stuff that's worth something today might not be worth the same tomorrow. It is all about adapting. It is all about keeping fresh.
Yeah, totally. I've just given ChatGPT a follow-up question. I said, what about what makes me a successful person? And this could be deep. And they've started off with, I love that you've asked this, Chris, because success isn't just about flipping items and making sales. It's about who you are and how you show up. Here's a real take on what makes you a successful person beyond the reseller hustle. Taking action is the first one, whether it's setting up a YouTube channel, going live on Whatnot, or most people talk, but some people do. That's what that one is. And then leading with passion. Whatever you do, do it with passion. Inspiring other people. That's good. Keeping learning, which is what we touched on earlier. Staying authentic.
That's
giving back into the community. That's good. And here's an important one: building freedom. This has gone deep. I'm impressed with ChatGPT on this. You've carved out a lifestyle on your own terms. No boss, no 9 to 5. That's real success.
You could have just done this an hour ago, and we would have been
we could have
sorted,
been finished in 10 minutes, couldn't we?
We'd have been done then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, but
that sums it up pretty well, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the last point on here was you dream bigger. You're not just flipping items. You're building a brand, a business, and a legacy. That kind of vision sets you apart. Interesting. Very inspirational from my friend ChatGPT.
Yes, Dave. Nice work, Dave.
Dave, nice one, Dave. Oh dear. Anyway, it's been a very, very interesting chat, Ian. I've been looking forward to having this chat with you because I had a feeling that you'd have these really good thoughts and conversation. So it's the kind of person that you come across in your videos. So nice one. I appreciate you coming on.
No, and like I said at the start, thanks for inviting me on. I think there's a lot of full-time reseller representation out on social media, and there are a lot of part-timers out there, and there's a role for part-timers as well in the reselling world. They are as important as full-time, and bringing the part-time perspective into it, we've got different thoughts and different drivers perhaps to what a full-time reseller has. So thank you for inviting me on and allowing me to share my perspective on that.
No problem. It's very interesting. And I've always said that being a part-time reseller is like the best of both worlds. You got that security in your job, which you love anyway. You love your job, so why not? And you get the joy of not having to do it for the money, which is possibly one of the best positions to be in.
You get the joy of reselling without the pressure. You get all the goods without the bads.
Yeah. Joe, just before we finish, I've got 2 questions for you, but I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments in the YouTube before we carry on. Joseph says, what are your reasons for doing YouTube if monetary value isn't your drive as a reseller? Are you making more from reselling or your YouTube channel? Good question.
Great question, that. And it's similar to eBay, that the role of YouTube has changed what it means to me and why I do it. So a lot of people won't know this, but I started YouTube because I have stammer. I've got a speech impediment, and part of that I was doing stuff with the NHS, Airedale stammer prevention, whatever they were called, and I got to the point where you're doing lots of self-reflection on how you speak and how you come across, and part of it was you got to record yourself and then listen to how you speak.
Right.
So I was recording myself, and I thought, you know what, I'm all right. I'm
Mm.
okay at doing this. And then I found it really weird just doing a recording just of a subject, or well, of anything. So I thought, oh, let's pick a subject. So I started talking about some of the stuff I had around the house, and what I was doing on eBay, and it went from there. That was the very first point. That's what made my first video, and I will never delete that first video because that was quite an important, proud moment for me to get in front of the
I'm
camera.
going to go back and watch that one. I'm going to find that and watch that
You
afterwards.
can, yeah, it's rough and ready, but I'll never
Don't
delete
matter.
that one.
Check out my first one.
Yeah,
Terrible.
and then as it went on, it was about community engagement. Um, you build up a following, people interact with your videos, and the community I think has changed a lot. Is debatable whether there is a community at the minute. So it moved away from that. Then the other thing, it came as an inspiration to actually list on eBay. When I was not having, when I wasn't feeling doing eBay, I made a segment in my videos where I had to show what was selling. So if I wasn't listing on eBay and I wasn't selling, I had nothing to show on my video. So it was a motivational tool for me. It was entirely for me.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I'll always say about my videos is a lot of people say they do this to help others. I've never gone out with that intention. It's a byproduct of the stuff we do, generally showing
Yeah.
what you buy and sell. You naturally do it, but that's never been my goal. It's been a purely motivational tool for me. And I think now the channel's got a bit of traction, it would be wrong of me to say that the money doesn't play a part in it. And I think I've watched a lot of videos about our YouTubers ruining resellers. But
It's a
not
lot.
no one's really asked why YouTubers do it.
Mm.
No one's really asked why do YouTubers cover reselling. And for me, like I said, I make £500 profit per month off of eBay. I make £400 to £500 off of YouTube a month. So combined together, I make about £1,000. So there is
Yeah.
a monetary reason for me to do it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So it's a long-winded answer, but it's changed throughout
I
and
think
I
it
don't
does
know what.
change though. I think it does. I think when we first start, like if I try and honestly like think to myself, when I started YouTube as a reseller, because my channel had other stuff on it before I was a reseller. My biggest videos, my most watched videos are before I even did reselling stuff, you know. So when I started reselling, I was already used to making videos and I enjoyed making them. I just enjoyed making videos and enjoyed seeing that people would watch them. It's the whole point of making a video. If there's nothing worse than when you make a video and only like 50 people watch it and you just think, I just want people to enjoy it and watch it and comment and tell me that you've liked the video. That's what I started it for. And definitely, I think most of us definitely don't start with the aim of it being like a monetary thing,
No.
but it evolves over time. I think I started because I was fairly new as a part-time reseller, and I saw it as a way of making sort of connections in the reselling community and sort
Hmm.
of joining this community. And I think that's why a lot of people probably do it now, is to sort of come into it and say, okay, I'm a reseller. If you want to connect and be friends or whatever, and I think that's how it starts, but it evolves over time. It ends up being part of your business. I pay tax on all the earnings that I have from YouTube. It ends up being part of your business. You start getting sponsorship opportunities like we do with this podcast, and
Hmm.
you get one of the byproducts. Like if I was solely basing my YouTube channel on my earnings, like ad earnings, I probably wouldn't do it anymore. I would probably stop, because that's probably third or fourth down, maybe second or third on the list of important reasons for having a YouTube channel. The first most important reason is the connection in the community. The second most important is the amount of opportunities you get being on YouTube that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Like people email me, WhatsApp me, they say, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? Do you want to come and clear out my garage of toys? Do you want to come and do a house clearance? Do you want to come to this event? eBay contact me and say, do you want to come and help us out with this? Do you want to come to a special? It makes you feel part of something bigger. And
It
those
does.
opportunities 100% would not have come without having the YouTube channel. It wouldn't have happened. People wouldn't have known me for starters. It's like people wouldn't have trusted me to pay them for goods that they sent me in the post. They trust me because I'm on YouTube, and they think, well, he's not going to nick me stuff because he's on YouTube. You know what I mean? So
I
I
do.
think
I
like
do.
monetary is like maybe third. It's like community, opportunities, monetary for me. So it's a great question from Joseph.
That is a great question. I can totally echo that as well. I went into the charity shop a couple of weeks ago, and I know the guys in there watch my channel, and I know they do because they come up to me and talk about some of the stuff I've found. And it doesn't mean they're cranking the prices up, mind. But what it meant was that somebody dropped in a big load of old toys the other day. They took it home. One of the guys took it home, was sorting through it, and was just like, oh, I can't be bothered to sort through this. So he saw whenever he saw me come in, he brought this bag of toys out. I went through them all and I pieced them all together. And he was like, you know what? You can have them for X amount of money. I'm not revealing it because I've got a video coming out tomorrow with it all on. And that opportunity, that link wouldn't have come up if I don't do
Yeah.
this. I've met a lot of other resellers through this. One of my good reseller friends, Connor, the Welsh poker picker, we would have never have met if it wasn't for myself and him doing YouTube. And now we're really good mates. Same with Project Games, who I noticed was in the chat as well. It is good for connections. But I think just to finish off on this point, it's a creative outlet. Like eBay and reselling can be quite monotonous, quite dry. This is a creative outlet, trying to get the right angles for your shots, trying to get the sound to work, or doing a good voiceover. It's his own little world.
It's a good, yeah, that's a good thing that I'd not thought of. And I've always made videos, like from being tiny, like from in the early 90s when my brother had an on-the-shoulder camcorder like this that took full-size VHS tapes in it. Like I used to use his camera and I would make videos with my friends. We'd make little horror videos where you put the camera through the grass and make it look like there's a snake and all this stuff. I used to make video. I've always made videos, and it definitely is a creative thing. And it's kind of just carried on into adulthood. Maybe it's a bit weird. But
No,
yeah,
it's not.
I've always made videos.
I tell you what like his video, what is weird. And I remember a video me and my brother made was he held like one of the real basic mobile phones with the camera coming out the top, and we had this little plastic gun behind it, and we pretended we were GoldenEye. So he was walking around as if he was James Bond GoldenEye, and I'd be the bad guy, and he'd shoot me, and then I'd have to come round and come out of another door, and he'd shoot me there. And we had this
So you'd
whole
have like the end of the gun in the shot.
yeah. You know how
Yeah,
like GoldenEye was on
yeah,
like the N64, and we go around and we like make our own GoldenEye levels and like film it all and watch it back. Mate, it was class.
yeah. I remember a moment when I was making videos when I think I was about 12. And I remember me and my friend, we had my brother's big camcorder, and we figured out how to do this little trick. And it's so obvious, right? I didn't appear on camera much. I was always the editor and the filmer. So my mate would stand on camera and he'd say something or do something, but then he'd click his fingers like that, and then we'd get him out of shot, and then I'd record again, and it would just make him look like he disappeared on a click of a finger. And it was just like a revelation, like to be able to do that little trick with a camera at that age. I always remember that. I don't know why. It's just one of them things that we figured out how to do the disappearing click of the fingers. Yeah, but that's where it goes back to for me, sort of all the way back to childhood. Again, goes back to your childhood.
Exactly.
It all goes back to that, doesn't it? Right. I've got 2 questions for you that I ask
Mhm.
everybody. The first question is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself? Mainly reselling advice, but I'm flexible.
Reselling advice. If I was to go back in time, one thing I'm quite passionate at the minute, and I'm trying to explore this and get this across in a lot of my videos, is oversourcing and overstocking. Particularly, I think this applies in the part-time space and the full-time space. And what I mean by this, right, is summer months, you might be out on a boot sale on a Saturday. You might be out, or you might be out on a boot sale Sunday. You might do multiple boot sales Saturday, Sunday. You might go charity shopping during the week. That's what my summer looks like, right? I don't have enough time in the day
Mm,
to list all of that stuff. So all it
yeah.
does is it sits in my garage. I've got stuff in my garage that has been there for years. Now, one of the things I've been doing recently is really cutting back on that and maybe only getting
Mm,
5 or 6 items at a time, because I know when I get home, I've got time to list 5 or 6 items. And that is the biggest win for my profitability at the minute, is
yeah.
just cutting out the spending. Yes, I'm leaving profit. Yes, I'm leaving good items, but I know I've only got a certain amount of time to get my items listed. So
Yeah.
I shouldn't be buying any more than I need. There's a couple of things that grind me, right? Is when you watch other YouTubers who've got units and units full of stock that is not listed, and yet they'll still go out and just buy a ton more. Like, why?
Mm, yeah.
That's the one thing that I tell myself: don't go down the trap of overstocking, because I
Yeah.
have, and it's hard to get out of it. It's hard to get to the bottom of it.
It totally applies to full-timers as well. It absolutely does. And if I apply it to myself, it's part of the reason why my turnover in this financial year is not as good as last financial year. I've literally, in the last 3 months, I think I've spent about 3 grand on clothing, like
Mhm,
bales and bundles and all sorts. I'm swamped in it. It's also the reason why I built this, because I have that much clothing coming in right now and I can't keep up with it. So in reality, like, I'm going to boot sales now as well. So I've got a back room full of boot sales stock. I've got clothing coming in from clothing wholesalers. I'm literally swamped.
mhm.
I'm at the point now where I've employed a VA because I can't list as much. I can't list it all. I take the photos, I send it to them, they do the drafts. And so yeah. And when you go through a period of saying, like, I'm going to list my backlog, I'm going to sell my backlog, my death pile, rather than keep buying, suddenly it's not rocket science, but suddenly your profits, you start getting that cash flow back. Your profits start going back up again. Your cash flow comes back. And yeah, it's a great piece of advice. But then what do? You go and spend all your cash flow again, don't you? Because you've
Of
seen
course you
some
do.
bargain somewhere. You go and spend it
That's the
again.
fun bit. That's the fun bit. I
That's
think
the
that
fun bit.
it really is, but I think it is important, obviously, to
Yeah.
have some in reserve.
Yeah.
But I would have thought, as a full-timer, you've got access to stock every day of the week. If you want to go out and find stock, you've got
Literally.
access to it. You might have to adjust your weekly program or your processes to find it. But how much backlog do you really need? I think everyone's still scared off of what happened on COVID when you couldn't
Mm,
go out and get everything. But that was a long time ago now,
mm.
so you kind of got to park that. That's happened. I think that, yeah. How much is a reasonable backlog? And that'll be
That
different for
backlog,
everyone.
the backlog creeps up on you fast.
Mhm,
Like January, in January, I cleared my entire death pile. I spent 2 months clearing it, and I was working through it. I was selling it in job lots. I was doing all kinds of things to clear it. And I got to the point where I think I had 1 box of stuff left and I had nothing else. And then for some reason, I just kept seeing all these great deals online of clothing and stuff. And before you know it, I'd spent 2 to 3 grand on clothing. And all that good work I did went out the window. And now I'm at boot sales again. And it's become a monster again, and in
Mm.
in just a matter of weeks. There's only so much you can list, unless you're a mega machine listing 30 items a day, which I will never ever be that. I can't do it. I haven't got the concentration span to list 30 items a day.
Yeah.
Um,
So
difficult.
how you work. So
Yeah,
how much you need to get to keep yourself ticking over. You
yeah,
know. And so, but then I don't know whether everybody knows that yet, and it takes a while to kind of get to that point. It's taken me ages to finally figure
yeah,
that out.
yeah. No, it's a good one. That I like that. Okay, the next question is: if I gave you £100 right now, what kind of things are you going to pick up? What's your sort of go-to items that you love? We know generally what your go-to is, but what specifically are you going to spend that money on?
I think if you gave me £100 now, I want to get back into sports cards, Pokemon
Oh,
cards,
okay.
and sports stickers. Those have been my biggest singular sellers, as in monetary wise. If I can find the right sports cards, you can make a heck of a lot of money on those. And what's prompted that, right? I went to the Cardiff Card Show with Connor and Matt Project Games and another peers, yeah. And yeah, we went there, and the prices of some of those cards are astronomical. And Connor bought a pack of cards. He paid 8 or 9 quid, which is ridiculous considering that's scalpers. Scalpers have bought them to the event, and they're selling them for more. But he opened that pack of cards and he pulled one out that's worth between £700 and £800 for
Ooh,
one
okay.
Pokemon card. And he's sent that off to get graded in America. If that comes back a 10, you're looking at 2.5 grand.
Nice.
So I would go and spend my £100 on just Pokemon packs, and I'd
A
rip
load of
them all
packs.
open,
Rip them open.
get absolutely nothing, but you've given me £100
Have a
for
have a
free,
little
so it doesn't
gamble.
really
Have a
matter.
have a bit of fun. I think
Exactly.
Dungeons and Joypads. Do you know Dungeons and Joypads, Bill?
Mhm.
He was saying to me that obviously the price of cards is through the roof. It's like it's never been higher. It's like printing money if you get your hands on that kind of stuff.
It is. It is. And you're finding that whether the Pokemon card company do it intentionally or not, there's limited stock. There's limited production. So
Mm,
it drives the demand higher. And you see it is the definition of scalping. Smith's Toys will have a certain amount of stock in, Costco will have a certain amount of stock in, and you get people finding out when that's going to be and queuing up outside, limited to a certain number of boxes, and then 95% of them will go up on eBay, go up on Marketplace.
yeah.
It you know I, it's sad because it takes the product out of children's hands, whether they should be for children or not, but it's it's cardboard, and people are spending crazy amounts on colored in cardboard.
It's weird, isn't it? It is a bit weird, I suppose, when you look at it like that.
I've
But
done the same. I've done the same.
yeah,
It was the last card show, a couple of card shows. I bought a signed Jude Bellingham card for £100, and
right.
it's worth more than that now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a market. It's a market.
Yeah.
It's a bit like saying why do people spend hundreds of pounds on stupid plastic toys from the 90s?
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing, isn't it?
Definitely, it is the same thing. I love sports cards, but it is gambling, says Retro Sheller. You could spend £100, end up with shite, or you could hit. The
Mhm.
shite normally outweighs the hits unless you are lucky.
It's absolute gambling, total
Total
gambling.
gamble. Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating, Ian. Thank you very, very much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to come and sort of find your content?
Master of Pieces, the one and only. I think I'm the only one. There's none others on YouTube, no others on Instagram. So you type Master of Pieces, you'll find me.
Dead easy.
I'm more active on YouTube. I should do more on Instagram. I just don't.
Are you on the
Usually,
TikTok yet?
I started it, but no, not
It's a
really.
tricky one, that. It's a tricky one. I'm trying to crack it, but I've not got the longevity of it.
It's a different form of content. It's filmed in a different way. It's a different audience. So what you have to put in your content is different. Yeah, it's its own beast. But
Yeah.
yeah, usually 1 or 2 videos a week out on YouTube covering lots of different topics, whether that be simply buying and selling or exploring other reselling topics, a bit like we've done today.
Yeah, cool. And a big thank you as well to Fleek, who are sponsoring the podcast at the moment. So thank you very much. And we are all done. Thank you to everybody who's been watching here on YouTube. Lots of people in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to give Master of Pieces a follow, especially on YouTube. And we are done for today. And thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you next time, guys. That's it for today's episode of the Everything Reselling podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, to follow, or to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.